Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining us today. Have you ever been in a situation so chaotic, so seemingly random, that you wondered if anyone or anything was actually in control? This story is about exactly that. It's a royal drama set in ancient Persia, filled with ambition, hatred, and palace intrigue. It's the Book of Esther, a book famous because it never once mentions the name of God, yet his influence is written on every single page. Welcome to a deep dive into Providence, wrapped in purple and gold. Our story begins in the sprawling kingdom of Persia, with King Ahasuerus, who rules over 127 provinces. During a massive royal feast, Ahasuerus demands that his beautiful Queen Vashti appear before his drunken guests to show off her beauty. Vashti, displaying incredible courage, refuses the command. In the eyes of the king and his advisors, this was more than just insubordination. It was a threat to the established order. A decree is immediately issued. Queen Vashti is removed from her position. Her vacant throne sets the stage, but in the midst of this human conflict and power struggle, we can already see the first subtle movement of a divine hand. One queen is removed, clearing the path for the woman who would save a nation. Enter Hadassah, or as we know her, Esther. She is a Jewish orphan, raised by her older cousin Mordecai, a devoted man living in the capital city of Susa. When the search begins for a new queen, Esther is brought into the palace alongside many other beautiful young women. Esther is not just beautiful, she is wise and obedient. Following Mordecai's instruction, she keeps her identity a secret, concealing the fact that she is Jewish. In a stunning turn of events that feels tailor-made, Esther wins the king's favor over all the other candidates and is crowned Queen of Persia. Think about that for a moment. A Jewish exile placed in the most influential position in the known world. Coincidence or calculation? Before she truly settles into her royal role, another critical piece of the puzzle falls into place. While serving at the palace gate, Mordecai overhears two of the king's eunuchs plotting to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Mordecai reports the plot to Queen Esther, who then informs the king, crediting Mordecai. The conspirators are caught and executed, and Mordecai's heroic deed is recorded in the official royal chronicles. The king, however, completely forgets to reward him. This detail, this forgotten, dusty piece of bureaucracy, will become the linchpin of the entire narrative later on. The stage is now set for our villain, Haman the Agagite, who the king elevates above all the other officials. Haman is obsessed with power and demands that everyone bow down to him. Everyone except Mordecai. Mordecai, as a devout Jew, refuses to give Haman the honor that belongs only to God. Haman's pride is instantly wounded, but his anger doesn't stop at Mordecai. He sees an entire people, the Jews, and decides that they must all be eliminated. Fueled by this irrational, deadly hatred, Haman secures a royal decree from King Ahasuerus to annihilate every Jew. Men, women, and children in all 127 provinces on the 13th day of the 12th month, Adar. The decree is sealed with the king's signet ring, and copies are swiftly dispatched throughout the empire. When news of the decree reaches Susa, the Jewish community erupts in mourning and Mordecai is devastated. He sends word to Queen Esther, pleading with her to intercede with the king. Esther's response is one of fear and dread. She sends word back to Mordecai, explaining the terrible palace law. Anyone who approaches the king without being summoned faces certain death, unless the king extends his golden scepter. She hasn't been called into his presence in 30 days. Her life is literally on the line. Mordecai's reply is the dramatic turning point of the entire story. He warns her not to imagine that she, just because she is in the palace, will escape any more than any other Jew. And then he delivers the challenge that echoes across history. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? This is the moment of reckoning. Esther realizes her position is not a privilege. It is a profound purpose. Her courage is born from this realization. She instructs Mordecai to gather all the Jews in Susa to fast on her behalf for 3 days and 3 nights. And then she declares, "If I perish, I perish." After the 3 days of fasting, Esther dresses in her royal robes and stands in the inner court. King Ahasuerus sees her, his heart softens, and he extends the golden scepter. She is saved. He asks her what her request is, promising her even half his kingdom. Esther, demonstrating brilliant strategic patience, doesn't reveal Haman's plot immediately. Instead, she invites the king and Haman to an exclusive banquet that day. and then invites them to a second, more intimate banquet the following day. Haman leaves the first banquet overjoyed, believing he is the most favored man in the kingdom. But when he sees Mordecai still refusing to bow at the palace gate, his joy turns to ash. At the suggestion of his wife Zeresh, Haman immediately orders a gallows 75 feet high to be built, specifically for Mordecai. That very night, God's hand moves subtly but irrevocably. The king cannot sleep. He commands his attendants to bring the Book of Memorable Deeds, the Royal Chronicles, and read from them, the chosen text. The entry detailing Mordecai's heroic act of saving the king's life from assassination, the very deed that was never rewarded. Just as the king asks who has been honored for this, Haman conveniently walks into the outer court ready to ask the king for permission to hang Mordecai. The king stops Haman and asks him, "What shall be done for the man whom the king delights to honor?" Haman, arrogant to the core, assumes the king means him. He suggests a massive public parade featuring the king's royal robes and the king's own horse, led by one of the king's most noble officials. The king agrees and then delivers the crushing blow. "Hurry and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew." Man is forced to publicly honor the man he intends to kill. The next day, Haman arrives at the second banquet, completely humiliated. This is where Esther executes her final, decisive move. As the king again asks for her request, Esther reveals her identity and the deadly truth. She says, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated." The king, shocked and furious, demands to know who dares to do this. Esther points straight at the villain. The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. The king, in a rage, goes out into the palace garden. When he returns, Haman is desperately begging Esther for his life. Upon seeing this, the king seals Haman's fate. One of the eunuchs points out the 75-foot gallows Haman had built for Mordecai. The king's decree is swift and final. Hang him on it. Haman is hanged on the very instrument of death he built for his enemy. Justice is served, but Haman's initial decree to kill the Jews is irrevocable because it was sealed with the king's signet ring. The law of the Medes and Persians could not be changed. However, King Ahasuerus issues a second decree. This new decree empowers the Jews throughout the empire to assemble, defend themselves, and attack them on the 13th of Adar. With the tables completely turned, the Jews, armed and empowered, achieve a great victory over their enemies. They move from sorrow and imminent death to strength and triumph. Mordecai rises to become the king's second in command. Esther saves her people. To commemorate this miraculous turn of events, the complete reversal of fate, the Jewish people established the annual festival of Purim, a celebration of deliverance, and a reminder that even when things look darkest, a hidden power is working behind the scenes. The Book of Esther never mentions the name God, but its pages are saturated with his providence. It shows us a divine plan that works through human weakness, through palace bureaucracy, through sleepless nights, and through the bravery of one woman. It proves that even in the chaotic shadows of history, God is meticulously directing the details of your life and my life, moving pieces into position for such a time as this. Where do you see his hidden hand working in your life today? Trust the providence. If this story encouraged you to look closer at the events in your own life, please hit the like button. Subscribe for more content. Leave a comment below sharing a time when you saw God's hand in the shadows. Thanks for watching. Stay blessed.